My name is Max Stein, and I love video games.
I'm the Mega Buck, and I really love video games.
My name is Rafa Boy, and I love video games.
And welcome to the Game Treasure Podcast, where we discuss treasured games from yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We have an excellent show for you guys today. It's actually a massive show. We have so much to talk about. We are going to be talking about Lethal Company, first of all, the multiplayer horror junk collecting game that's absolutely destroying Steam right now. And then, since it's still January and I'm still obsessed with living in the future, we're going to be talking about 10 out of 10 VR action game Asgard's Wrath 2, as well as discussing what we think about the state of VR games. And we're also maybe going to talk about some VR game gems, our own personal treasured VR games. But first, let's start with some news. So my first story that I've got for us. So CES just happened recently, the Consumers Electronics Show. I believe that's what it stands for. And Sony unveiled, with their partnership with Honda, the PlayStation car. It's not actually called.
Sure,
it's
why
not
not?
actually called PlayStation V car. No, it's called the Aphelia. Aphela. AF.
Yo, I feel you.
It's
Afila.
I feel
Yeah.
that I like this car. Afeela. So it's an electric vehicle. Like I said, it's partnership
Mhm.
with Honda. You can play PlayStation games in it
While you're
while
driving.
you're driving.
So is it like self-driving?
It is not. I mean, I
and
don't
that's why
think-
we're playing PlayStation
I don't think
games?
they want you to play PlayStation while you drive it. is
I
the
don't
thing.
know.
I think your
mean,
passenger is supposed to play PlayStation games while you drive.
But I want to play PlayStation
So,
too.
I mean, you could probably play like Loop Hero or something. You know, you barely have to watch that thing. But yeah, apparently the way it works, it doesn't have the hardware in it of a PlayStation 5. Of a PlayStation 5, but it uses that PlayStation Portal app. So it's
that makes
remote
sense.
play.
Ah,
So
I
your car
see.
talks to the internet just the same way Teslas talk to the internet. But in this case, it does it to help you play God of War while you drive.
In other words, it's never going to work right.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
If you look it up, it's got these fantastic giant touchscreen interface like that stretches from the entire width of the car. It's a pretty nice looking car, I'd say. I did not check the
Wow.
price point on it, but I'm assuming it's probably expensive as hell.
A lot.
So yeah,
Almost certainly astronomical. This has like a screen on the front where you can see that it's charging.
yes.
What?
Thank you, Raph, for reminding
Oh,
me. That
boy.
is true. One of its
Whoa.
features is that there is a small screen in front that you can change the display of. So the article that I read,
So you can flip off the person in front of you while you're driving.
you could put a
Yeah.
JPEG of Goatsy on the front of your car.
Why didn't I think of that?
I've been waiting for this moment my whole life.
My other car's a guy's asshole. But the people at CES, mostly the realistic use of that, as they were saying, like people that maybe drive for Uber could make a little PNG of the Uber logo and put it on the front of your car.
Wow,
Right,
so much
right.
so that it needs to be a feature of the car.
I think needs is a
Okay.
strong word here. I think that it is a feature of the car.
It's a car built for Uber and Lyft, right?
Right. Yeah. And yeah, because you can maybe. Can you see the screen from back there? All right, you can play Asgard's Wrath if you want to. Whatever. Not- yeah,
Oh man, that would
Yeah,
be
right.
the best Uber
Yeah,
ride
yeah.
ever.
some VR in there.
Go around the
Yeah.
block
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, I'll pay. I'll pay.
I don't care how much it costs, just take me around.
All right. Next story is, y'all remember Game Shark?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh.
I'm knee deep in them for the N64 yesterday.
It was sort of the competitor of Game Genie. It was a cheat code thing, a company that specialized.
took
in-
over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've been gone for a hot minute now, but they recently announced their rebranding, and in doing so, they may have accidentally leaked information about when the Switch 2 is going to come out. Whoopsie!
Oh, how's
I'm sure
that?
Nintendo is very
Huh.
pleased with this.
Probably one of those things where like you get the specs ahead of time, like when a new iPhone comes out, right?
right.
Like all the companies that
Oh.
make cases like get the dimensions and
Right.
specs ahead of time to make cases for them.
that for your consideration.
I'm
info.
sure they assign a bunch of legalese to be able to have access to
Right.
that.
Which they are now gonna get.
Oops.
Ooh, and the Nintendo is just. Ooh, there's so much suing. But yeah, so
Spicy.
Game Shark is rebranding. Their company is now going to be called AI Shark. And in a press release,
Drop
I
the
know.
game.
It's so annoying. But so in a press release recently, they said that they wanted their rebranding in September to coincide with the release of the Switch 2. I mean, did I say that out loud? Is that on? Is this on the record? You're not a journalist, are you? Fuck.
Are you for real?
You're saying the things that I put on the internet
Yeah.
stay there like
For how-
forever?
how long forever? Yeah, like forever, ever.
So like,
Yeah.
how many
Yeah,
people at
forever.
Game Shark got fired for that?
Yeah.
That
Ooh.
little
Everyone
snafu?
except for the guy who
Me.
said we should
Fuck off.
rename it AI Shark or whatever. That asshole.
Can't put that toothpaste back in
No.
the tube.
No.
So you guys ready for
What
the Switch in September? The new
Right.
Switch?
Hell yeah.
Switch 2.
I'm fucking ready.
Shoot.
I'm still having fun with my Switch 1.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't buy the OLED because it's soon now. All right. So next story. Atari. Atari has announced that they are getting into the mini console game. They announced the Atari 400 Mini. So much like the other mini consoles, the SNES Mini and the NES Mini, it's a yay big. It's like 5x8 or something like this. It's like probably smaller than a sheet of paper,
Wow.
and it's designed to look like that Atari 400, which is like a sort of very 70s beige
So weird.
cubic nightmare scape looking thing. It's frankly it's hideous. And
It was back
yep,
then too.
and it comes with one of those also equally hideous. I'm probably offending Atari people. Atari. I'm sorry if you like Atari. One of those.
You have to put yourself back in that time
Yeah.
period. Like they didn't, the D-pad hadn't been invented yet. Everything was arcade sticks and joysticks,
So
right?
that
Nobody would have thought this looks like shit.
right.
Right.
I am now.
And so it's
Now we do,
coming
though.
with one of those joystick controllers.
Mhm. Mm-hmm.
This bad boy is $120.
It's so weird because Atari last year, I don't know if you guys saw, but Atari released a Atari 2600 Mini, like a re-release of the 2600 that had preloaded games on it, but it also has a cartridge slot to play original Atari
I believe-
games, which is like the
Oh.
coolest
I
thing ever.
believe
That's
this
dope.
one is it. First of all, it also has preloaded games. But strangely,
Yeah.
weird they're bad at branding. This thing plays more than
Yeah.
Atari 400 games. This thing.
So the 2600 one.
Okay, so there you go. So this one, while it looks like the 400, it's supposed to play all the way up to the 5200. And it has games
But-
built into it. It has Berserk, Balderdash, Capture the Flag,
Yeah.
Lee, Millipede, Miner 2049er, Missile Command, Mule, Star Raiders 2, and Yoomp built in. And it does have a capacity to side load ROMs through a USB stick, just straight up.
So weird.
They'll let you play
Oh,
ROMs
wow.
on this thing.
Boo on this
Very
man.
weird. Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Not-
the best
that
thing about
is-
that one they did last year was, besides the included ones, you could actually it was a way to play your Atari games, and it went up to the 7800 games as
Mhm,
well
mhm.
too, in native HDMI without having to use cables that are literally 40 years old
Right.
now, and a console that's 40 years old now. And like that was the coolest thing to take a step back and go to like all digital. That just
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just
Well,
me.
I mean, that's the Megabuck talking. He's retrogametreasure.com. You want to get those parts and you want to play those things on the hardware.
Get this
It's
man
got
up.
all the other bells and whistles that the other mini consoles have. So like like so what do they call this where you can save anytime? The
Yeah, like
the save
states.
state capabilities and
Yeah.
the rewind capabilities that they introduced with some of the other mini consoles. Frankly, I don't know if I would want to play it, especially not for $120.
I'm not sure about this. I love like under here where it says the console price on Atari's website, $119.99, and you can pay in 4 interest-free installments of $29.99. You can finance your Atari.
I'm so
400
broke.
Mini.
I have to finance my
no.
Atari, yet I'm still gonna buy it. It's very valuable to
Oh.
me.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
don't.
Spend your money elsewhere. And then our final news story. Buck, would you like to take this final news story for me, please?
Yeah, let's go right out of the Atari 2600 and its ROM crap into apparently there's close to 20 first-party Nintendo Switch games that are currently out of print. Like
Oh.
there is a list of first-party Switch games that physically right now you're buying the last printing. Now it screams maybe Nintendo Selects, like that's their greatest hits lineup, where they re-release a game with a different moniker on it for that. But you're talking games like that Paper Mario Origami King, that The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake, Metroid Dread, both the Fire Emblem games, Yoshi Crafted World, I mean Splatoon
Whoa.
2, Mario
gosh.
Odyssey, like
Wow.
real games, and it's like Nintendo, don't you even try and do that all digital thing on me. But
I was just about to ask you that. What if
You
the
know that's
Switch
where
2
they're
is trying to
going.
be all digital?
I don't know, man. I would hope that Xbox trying to do that in the last year or so, like maybe steer them in the direction of, I'm not so sure if we want to
I don't
do
know,
that
man.
completely.
Xbox been cleaning up shop with that all. I made the Switch. I personally have the digital Xbox, and it's amazing. It's silent, and the games load instantly, and I don't have to have the games in my shelf. But that obviously goes in direct conflict with the idea of being a collector.
Yeah.
You know what the biggest bummer to it all is when you look at things like what was that? It was a movie or a game a couple weeks ago, and they said, hey, this is going to be taken down off digital. Oh, and by the way, if you own it, you won't be able to view it anymore either.
Whoa,
Yeah.
what?
Digital, yeah,
I
exactly.
forget
And it's
what this was.
they have the
I
power to
remember
do
this.
that.
Yeah, that's true.
There was
They have
a show or a movie or something like that got taken
Right.
down,
And
and
it
there's
was
also
like
games that
they have the power to do that digitally if they cut you off and just say, no, you either have to be connected to the internet, or no, we don't have a license for this anymore, but I own it. No, you really didn't. Sorry, that's read the fine
And you know what
print.
else is strange about that is that the Switch currently is the Switch and the internet no likey each other. Like playing Smash Brothers over the
No.
internet is garbage. Like
it's a disaster.
it feels
yeah.
bad. There's no voice chat capabilities. They're like
No.
load the voice chat thing on your phone, and that's like
No.
no, you gotta. What is so
Yeah.
switching to all digital?
Nintendo's always been the
They got
yeah,
some
I
ground to
don't-
make.
Nintendo's always been a big proponent. Yeah, they've always been a proponent of couch co-op, right? That's always been like huge for them is couch
Yeah.
co-op. So they've never put a. I mean, look at they still use the friend code thing. Like,
Right.
what fucking year is it?
Oh,
Like, I
man,
can't
that's
just look up
true.
my friend's username and find them. No, you got to have like a 16-digit
It's
friend.
basically your bank account number for your digital. For
Yeah,
your
I can't
that-
tell you how
that-
many times I've been just dropped from any given game that I'm trying to play online while I'm playing on the
Right.
Switch.
Mario Kart.
That is
same thing.
Japanese. That is Japanese like society in a nutshell. Like, we can do it, but it's gonna be really complicated, and you got to track it through very cumbersome means.
Yeah.
Like, they still use fax machines over there. I got
Yeah.
nothing.
Well, if you have one of these discontinued games, I didn't mean to get us so off topic, but those they may be
Yeah.
expensive in the future. Maybe hold
That's a
on
big
to
deal.
that
Well, if they're
copy
gonna
of
go to the
Splatoon
Selects.
2 for a while.
Right, because look at all the way back to the PS1 and the
greatest
PS2.
hits.
Unless it was a weird short printing of it, the black label is always more expensive than the greatest
Yeah.
hits. So
Yeah,
you own it. If you can hold it.
they did that. Just one last comment. They did that with that what was that Mario re-release where they did the Sunshine and 64
All-Stars,
the
3D
All-Stars,
All-Stars.
and they straight
But they said that ahead of
up front,
time.
They said we're not
Yeah.
going to print but so many of them. But
Yeah.
now
This
Which
is
they printed a
wild.
lot.
to do this.
I'm seeing like so much speculation online about what this could
Right.
mean. Like some people are
Right.
saying like, oh, it could be just a rebranding thing. Like they're going
Yeah.
to rebrand it with works on both Switch 1 and 2, or they're going to be
Right.
completely eliminating them, making it
Right.
a Nintendo Selects thing. Like, man, that's
Wow.
Yeah. I would imagine
Those-
the Switch 2 is most likely going to be 100% backwards compatible. Nintendo isn't one to make that mistake unless they change medium,
Right.
right? Like
Yeah,
like they
right,
did
yeah.
for the Switch.
No mini discs as
Right.
opposed to cartridges. Yeah.
Right. They tend
Yeah,
to
I
stay
like
the
the
same.
carts. I think what
Yeah.
they've got now with the
Yeah.
Switch is fantastic.
I love it. Like
Yeah,
the
it's a great
little
console.
SD card,
Yeah.
basically for a
It loads
game.
nice and fast. They're tiny to
Mhm.
carry in like a carrying case. It's brilliant, honestly.
I mean, really look at that. They're the only ones that, after years and years, still went, no, cartridges.
Right.
Discs are dumb.
I don't care if
They
kids find
went
them
to
so
disc.
tasty and delicious and irresponsibly
I can tell you right now, they're not tasty
Yeah.
and delicious at all.
Well, they dealt with
made
that.
sure
They
of
dealt
that.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Right,
saw
yeah.
they foresaw
Yeah,
this
yeah.
problem.
All right. Well, that was the last
I kinda
news
like
story
the
that I
V
had.
discs.
So let's go ahead and move on to our first segment of the day, shall we? Okay. So for our first segment of the day, listen, I made these guys do this because this game I had
you
not
did.
played yet. I don't have a name for this segment. I just made these guys play Lethal Company. Okay? I'm just gonna
That's the name of the
I'm
segment.
gonna just say it.
I made these guys play Lethal
I'm
Company.
gonna write that on the I made these guys play Lethal Company.
These guys got to play Lethal Company.
We
Right.
well, my thinking originally was that Steam. We were doing the Asgard's Wrath with the VR through MetaQuest, and it made me think of my Steam VR games, which is my only experience with Steam. And so I thought maybe, I don't know, we'll tie it in because this game is like one of the most popular games on Steam right now, period. And I wanted to just hit
Right.
it before too much time separates and it's not in the zeitgeist anymore. So Lethal Company, developed by Zeekers, which is
Yeah.
a guy. Okay.
I remember when I love when you guys throw out a developer, but it's like
Yeah.
a dude, like
Yeah.
Toby
Right.
Fox,
Yeah.
like it was just Toby
Yeah.
Fox made
Yeah,
Undertale, like
Zeekers
nobody else.
was a Roblox developer before he made Lethal
Precisely.
Company, which is insane to me.
So Zeekers was a Roblox game maker. Then he made Lethal Company and released it in early access on Steam in October of 2023. By November of 2023, it had over 100,000 concurrent players.
He was a
He
millionaire.
literally
Yeah.
is up there with the Five Nights at Freddy guy, just
Scott
fucking
Cawthon, yeah.
counting that dough, baby.
Yeah.
So this game costs $9.99 on Steam, and Raph pointed out to me that by that time in November, it had outsold Baldur's Gate 3 and the Resident Evil 4 remake.
Insane.
So
Two biggest
At the
games of
beginning,
year.
if you don't know what
Yeah.
this game is, I will explain it really quick. This is a online multiplayer randomly generated horror game in which you and a team of 4, so you and 3 buddies, work to collect rubbish from a series of moons for the company. It's very Ridley Scott Alien, where like you're sort of being sent to your doom by this corporate, monster.
Wayland Yutani esque.
I don't know. I think it literally is a monster.
We'll get to that later, but
Oh yeah, there's so many theories as to what's going on in this game.
so
It's
this
funny.
game has over 229,000 reviews and is overwhelmingly positive on Steam. So what I'm saying is, if you have Steam and you haven't played this game, please go get this game. So you and your friends are a crew on a scavenger ship. So your goal is you travel to a series of moons and are asked to collect rubbish to be brought back to the company for money. That's basically the elevator pitch
That's
of this game.
Whole game.
But what ends up happening is
yeah.
this game is, like I said, you delve into these dungeons that are on these moons, and the dungeons are randomly generated. Their outline is randomly generated every time you enter them. So it really the exploration is really fantastically weaved into the essence of the gameplay, is just wandering around these like sort of, sometimes it's a mansion, sometimes it's a like an underground bunker, with all of your friends. And the catch is that in most of them, it's like pitch black dark, and it's
Oh, yeah.
filled with monsters.
And they
And I
all
gotta
want to kill you.
Yeah, no, everything on this, every single moon wants to kill you, and that
Yeah.
darkness too. Like I've never seen darkness like that in a game. Like it is impenetrable. Like even with a
To quote
flashlight,
SpongeBob, it is
Yeah.
advanced darkness.
advanced darkness for sure. Yeah.
So there are a total of let me get the moon count here. Sorry, I wrote it down here. There are 8 different
Sounds
moons
about
you can
right.
travel to. Sometimes
got,
the moons will have like weather conditions associated with them on your playthrough, just randomly generated by the end. Like so, a moon will say, you know, an eclipse is happening there, or there's a really bad flood happening, or something like this.
Or bees.
Or Did you know that the beehives are worth money? Did you know that you can?
Yeah, I
Oh
learned
yeah,
this.
they're
so
worth
crazy.
a
I
lot.
learned this.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so you have these 8 different planets, and there are 19 different entities that you can interact with on these planets. Some notable entities that I wanted to write down: a spooky ghost girl who haunts you if you stay in your ship for too long; a crazy spring-headed monster who moves like the weeping angel from Doctor Who;
Yeah.
basic
Because you have to look at the
Slender Man,
Yeah.
basically.
yes.
A clone of a copy of you who copies your voice and tricks your friends into thinking he's you. That's real. That's in this game.
I haven't run into that one yet.
So there's a day and night cycle. This is sort of relevant to the existence of the monsters. So when you arrive on a planet, it's 8 a.m., I believe. Is that correct? Something like 8 or
Yeah,
9
it's
a.m.
8:02 a.m. And you have to leave by midnight.
You have to
So
the ship
specific.
that you
I know it's exactly 8:02 in the morning when you got there.
the ship that you ride in, like Raph just said, automatically leaves around midnight. But
Yeah.
basically, the moment you hit the planet, this little simulated clock begins ticking, and it ticks quite quickly. Like the ratio of
Yeah.
seconds to
It's
hours.
not real time
no,
at all.
not even close.
It's I think it's a minute per hour, so you have 12 minutes while you're on the moon to actually do stuff.
And so, as the day changes into night, the planet, specifically the dungeons on the planet, get exponentially more difficult. The monsters that are inside them
Oh, yeah.
become much more aggressive, and monsters begin to spawn outside much more frequently.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, tell me about your monsters, Mac.
God, this game, I love being scared. I love this game, but I'm
I do like
such a
being scared.
scaredy cat, and I also have no sense of direction, and I also have the
man.
worst vision, and so it basically becomes me
Perfect storm.
like holding Buck's pocket as he guides me through the level as I'm screaming at the top of my lungs at everything that happens. It's so fun. It's the best game ever.
That's so funny. You did. The hardest part when we played was we didn't have that extra person in the ship for most of the time, which
Yes.
makes a huge difference to
useful,
directing you
yeah.
away from monsters on the harder planets, opening up the corridors and stuff, the doors,
yeah,
extra
shutting
ones
down
for you.
mines and,
And
turrets
turrets.
too.
So what Buck is saying, to elaborate, is when you play this game, one of a feature that I wanted to note because I found it so amazing is the sound of this game. The way it uses the in-game audio. So you don't have Discord on while you're playing this game. You want to play this game
Absolutely,
with
yeah.
the
Yeah.
in-game audio system because it does fantastic things with effects on your voice. So if you enter an area that has a like a lid, like if you enter a cave portion of a level, your voice will begin to echo, and all of your friends' voices will
you'll hear
echo.
the echo,
And if
yeah.
you go into the dungeon area and it's like a metal graded like industrial place, your voice will echo as if it's bouncing off metal. Your footsteps will echo
Yeah.
as if they're in a big metal room.
Or the Resident Evil foyer.
Literally the Resident Evil foyer
That was
in the game.
terrifying.
It's so
I'm like,
scary.
oh no, I've been in this game. It did not end well.
Have you guys did you guys run into any of the face huggers when you were in there?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, those things are my favorite because it'll muffle your voice.
Yes!
So people
Right.
around you will just feel like
Literally.
and then you just drop
Yeah.
dead. It's
Yeah.
You
great.
just hear Buck going, "Get it up, get it up, get it up." So scared. And I'm just screaming because I don't have anything to get it off with.
Yeah, he didn't get it
The
all.
quicksand too. The quicksand, you hear them go as they bubble
So
down into
funny.
the quicksand.
It's so
great.
funny. This game has
I
so
love it.
many hilarious moments in it that just naturally happen. One of the things with the audio is the spatial audio of your dialogue with your friends. So what I'm saying is, if your friend is standing to your right and speaks, the audio will come from the right. If your friend is on the other side of a door, you can hear them, but it sounds like they're on the other side of a door. If your friend has an alien hugging his head like an alien, like it sounds like there's something muffling his voice. And more importantly, when you die in this game, your audio immediately goes out. And
yeah, like Phasmophobia.
and
yeah.
like like in Phasmophobia, and kind of like in Phasmophobia, there is some communication that has to go long distance. So you can
Right.
only hear people within a certain distance from you. So what I kept getting
Mhm.
lost literally on my way to the dungeon. I would turn around and lose Buck for a second, and then when I would turn back, it would just be silence.
It's like a kid at
And
a
I
theme
literally
park.
am running the game
Mom!
going, Buck, I'm scared. Don't go so fast. And so there's an item you can buy in the game, because there's like a little store where you can buy things like flashlights and lock picks, and that's the sound that the store makes after you buy something. But you can buy a radio. I wanted to talk about the radio so bad because it's one of the best things in any video game that I have played ever. Like,
Oh yeah.
so the
100%,
idea of
yeah.
the
So
audio
many good
only
scares.
going so far, there's, as Buck said, there's a moment in the game when you might want to split up, especially because inside of your ship, there's like a little radar screen that you can interact with to track your teammates inside of the dungeon. So it'll give you an overlay of the very dark, very confusing layouts. So you can use your walkie-talkie, as long as your friends have their walkie-talkie and they are alive, to speak with them about which direction to go to get out of the dungeon, or maybe something they're interacting with or something they found. There's portals where you can pull people from inside the dungeon onto your ship if they're in danger. There's portals where you can take people from the ship and shoot them into the dungeon, into a random place. Just what I mean, I've been talking forever, but you guys, I want to hear you guys' thoughts, because I could gush about this game for 1,000 years.
I've got to say, like, that you mentioned it there, the inverse teleporter is like one of my favorite things to just like, if you guys are just like, oh man, I don't know if we're gonna make it, but you know what, whatever, this is gonna be coffin run. All right, here we go. Turn on the inverse teleporter, everybody hops in, and everyone gets blasted into a random spot in the building. And you have to just find each other and find the way out. And it makes for some really good scares, honestly.
The whole game makes for really good scares, especially when the giant spider shows up and I just peace out.
It's so deadly, the giant spider.
Spooter.
It's literally...
spiders are
especially
scary.
in the Resident Evil level. I mean, the Buck's reference there, there literally is a moon you go to where the dungeon inside has there's like a big red staircase.
Checkered floor.
Yeah.
The big...
And then you interact with a giant
100%,
spider.
that's what he was doing
and
for.
you're like, this is fucking terrifying. Pardon my French. That is absolutely horrifying.
We had one. Me and Mac were playing it, and we had a stop sign. We had the flashlights. We had a stun grenade because we knew where the monster was. And he ran at me, and he stunned me and the monster. But I swung at it blindly, and we killed it. And we were so excited we killed the monster.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, now let's go in and explore. And another monster came out and
immediately.
killed both of us. We forgot about second.
My
monster.
favorite moment that happened was when Buck, who's braver than myself, it was like 6 o'clock, and there was a treasure that we left inside of the thing just outside the door, and it was like, someone's got to go get it, but night's falling. So I said, I'll stay in the ship and you go get it, Buck. And then we had the radios on. All right, radios on. Okay, click. You have to turn your radio on separately because it has its own battery life. And so there's moments where if someone's not talking, you're praying that it's because their radio died and not because they died, which is
or because they're carrying something
too heavy.
So you can listen, but you can't.
Which is
talk.
precisely what happened in this instance, in which I'm trying to guide Buck back to the ship. His hands are full. He tells me ahead of time I'm not going to be able to talk. And as I'm watching him in the radar, I hear a monster that sounds like it weighs 1,000 pounds outside of the ship. And then I switch the radar to myself, and I see this massive red dot circling the ship. And I just go, oh shit, fuck. So I run over to the ship door and close it, and then look back at the radar from the end of the ship and realize that Buck is yards from the ship. He is like 5 yards from the ship. And I hear him from outside going, Open the door! Open the door! What are you doing? Open the door! And I didn't want to open it because there's a monster out there, man. And then I just hear, open the door! Open the door!
And you see my legs clip through the door, and you just see my legs go.
I immediately I just press the lever to take off immediately. I'm just like, I'm out of here. I just leave Buck's corpse on the patio and just retreat. Luckily, all his stuff fell on the edge of the ship, and so we were able to pick it all up, even though he
clipped in the door. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I gotta talk about my my favorite moment that I've had in this game was pretty recently. Actually, we landed on Rend, I think, or Dine. It was one of the moons you actually have to pay for to go to.
Right.
It's one of the ones that have the mansion.
They
layout.
usually have a higher like drop rate of better treasures.
Yeah. They'll usually have like loots like in the thousands, like of credits that are worth in there. But yeah, so like we landed on here. We walked in and we ended up getting separated. I don't know how it happened. But
it just happens so fast.
Ended up getting separated. Yeah, I wandered around for a little bit. I came back. And I start walking my way back to the ship, and I'm just walking. And this one has a big snowstorm that's like kicking in. You're kind of following the lights that are tied to strings to get to the ship. And I hear my buddy in the ship. I get up, and as I get up into the ship, I go and I turn around, and I hear like something running up to the ship, and I go, oh! I go to slam the button for the door, and as I close it, I see one of the mask guys. It was one of my buddies that had the mask, had put the mask on, and he had turned into a zombie and was about to get in the ship. Slammed the door shut on him, and we took off.
So that's the entity I was talking about. That basically, like I said,
I haven't had that one yet. Oh, that's terrifying.
I don't know if this was a mod or what have you, but I watched a gameplay of somebody playing where, I don't know, they may have removed the mask effect, where it was just like, it just looked like his friend.
Yeah, that's
and
a mod.
they did something where it clips sections of your audio and then imitates your voice. So it walks up to this guy and he's just like, you know, like, oh, Mike, are you ready to leave now or whatever? And then he said, like, Mike said something that just like wasn't relevant at all. You know what I mean? As he was like slowly walking.
Like a randomizer run?
No, he just like, he clipped something that he said previously. So he was just like, are you ready to leave? And then it
was out of context.
He said like, oh, my battery's almost dead or something like that. And then he was just like, Mike, are you okay? And then he like wasn't talking and he's like, oh God. And then he just sort of turns around and runs immediately back to the ship. And Mike has been dead for, 5 minutes or whatever it is. Absolutely amazing. Like, what's it called when emergent gameplay stuff just happens? Like little mini game things of trying to avoid monsters. There's a ton of items that you can buy at the item store to make the exploration of the dungeon better. It's so fun. It's absolutely fantastic.
It's much more community based than anything else. Like, now that you've done X amount of things, like, okay, you've pretty much done everything, but since it's randomly generated and you're playing with other people, that kind of creates that, where it goes deeper and it feels like more, and it becomes like a community hangout kind of game.
They've actually also added a new mode to it, which is like the challenge moon. I don't know if it's weekly or if it's daily, but it updates and it gives you a new moon that has the same seed for everybody.
Wow.
And you have to go in and collect more scrap than anyone else on the leaderboards or whatever.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, but it's got random stuff for the seeds, but everybody shares the same seed, which is kind of cool.
That's good. That's a good idea.
I like that.
Yeah, it was nominated for Steam Game of the Year, but it didn't win. But it did win. They have some award called Better with Friends or something like that, and they are not
in a nutshell. Yes,
lying. So yeah, I think that's all I really got. So, but that's all I really have for Lethal Company. So yeah, in summarization, if you haven't played this game, go drop $10 on this kick-ass, probably going to be like game of the year, even though it came out in the end of last year.
Right. And bring some
do
friends.
yourself a favor.
It's really good. All right, so let's move on to our next segment. All right, we're back. And for this segment, we are going to be talking about Asgard's Wrath 2. Like I said earlier, we're living in the future. The MetaQuest 3, we're probably going to talk about that a little bit in a second. It kicks ass. And this game got a 10 out of 10 on IGN and has a 93 overall score on Metacritic. People are saying it's the future of VR, and it's amazing. And so the Mega Buck bought his son a Quest 3 this Christmas, which means he bought us a Quest 3 this Christmas.
Right. Yes.
And we were able to play it because it actually comes preloaded on the Quest 3.
Yeah.
No
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
That's
it came with it.
awesome.
So this game is developed by Sanzaru Games, and like I said, it is actually published by Oculus. That's why it comes front-loaded on the Quest 3.
Oh,
But I believe, Buck, you'd mentioned that it was originally designed for the 2, so I believe it is backwards compatible to the 2.
Oh, it's not even optimized for the 3 yet. It was designed with the 2 in mind because they weren't quite sure of the release timing of the 2.
So to summarize, it is a first-person action platformer. You play as a Norse god who apparently in the first game was like betrayed by Loki, the trickster god or whatever. And so in this second game, you are basically seeking the help of a bunch of Egyptian gods to get revenge on Loki. You play as this, like I said, this Norse god, and the way the framework of the game is that you are entering the bodies of famous warriors that have important fates or what have you. So you possess a series of different characters throughout history to do some great deed that they do. Which leads me to the fact that this game has 4 playable characters in it. I unfortunately only played long enough to see one of them. But each character has their own skill tree and their own like mechanics for the way they use their weapons.
Yeah. So it adds a lot of variety there.
There's a full-blown questing like log system, just like how most modern RPGs like Skyrim and stuff have, where there's like a main quest line, but then there's side quests. So yeah, let's talk about this game. Like I said, me and Buck were pretty much the only ones that got to play it. So
I watched some playthroughs as well, a little bit of a playthrough, like first hour or so, and I gotta say, I was surprised that this game is like a whole game.
It really is.
Like VR games for me, I think of like kind of like beat games or whatever, but this is like a whole, was like 40 hours to beat or something like that.
Right. You don't just blaze through in like an hour or two, which is normally the games that are like that. You're normally, unless it's a roguelite or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. When you flesh out an experience like that, it's like, holy crap, there's a lot to it. Then you throw in the RPG elements. Then you throw in the change of characters, which change the mechanics and the way that you play. You're not just sword fight dude the whole game,
Yeah. So I would say it's an entire game, including a 10 to 15 minute introductory cinematic that I was like, holy shit, this is so fucking long. The very first thing it has you do is just sit through so much fucking exposition, which in VR is
they
like...
had to explain the first one.
I was like, I'm in the world, I want to do stuff, and they're just making you sit there and watch someone talk to you, and I'm like, this is the fucking worst.
Well, you were like flying through things, and it was explaining, in a very cinematic way, it was explaining the story of the first one, because none of us played that one.
Yeah. So yeah, to clarify, Buck is correct. There is like a weird flying, it's like that game, or it's like that ride Soarin' at California. We're like soaring through California, but in this, you're soaring through Asgard's wrath. But then, like I said, even after that, there's like it's a full game. And most full games these days, I tried playing Far Cry 6 the other day because it came on Game Pass, and I couldn't sit through the goddamn exposition. I was just like, if you can't start your game for me in 5 minutes, I'm like, Super Metroid has one screen of exposition, and then that's it, man. Like, just fucking, a game was.
It's always Super Metroid
was made
with this
like
guy.
30 years ago. Let's fucking
game.
step it
It is
up.
a good game, yes.
But when I got into it, I will say it was very fun. First of all, the Meta Quest 3 looks nice. Mm-hmm. You agree, Buck?
Oh, just besides all of the like upgrades they made to it. Like it's lighter, and I have the advanced battery pack thing for both of them, and it's still lighter and more comfortable. But the pass through, like being in color and being at a higher frame rate, like just makes such a big difference. The way that the hand tracking works, whether a game supports it or not, there's a lot of out of menu stuff you can do it, and you can switch between hand tracking, not hand tracking really easily by just you can turn it on. It's probably on by default. You tap your two controllers together, and it switches between hands and controllers and all that stuff. Like,
how does that work? Like, so
dude,
is
it's
there
just
a
smart.
Magic, I think.
It has a set of sensors, and it has a set of sensors in the front of the Meta Quest, and it's better than AI artists at detecting hands. And
Wow.
like I started playing with it, and I started touching, and I realized it has a momentary delay on purpose because it might be easy until you learn it to like click the wrong thing or accidentally uninstall the game, because it's right next to each other. But there's like that big panel that comes up in front of your face. And like I could be on it right now and see the panel right here, but in the hand tracking mode, I was like, oh, I want to move the panel over there. I wonder if, and I just reached out and grabbed the panel and I took it with me across the room. I was like,
no way.
That was intuitively cool. When it's intuitive like that, it impresses me because it's like they just thought, yeah, you'd try and reach out and grab it, and that's what I
makes
did.
Sense, yeah.
And being able to switch between those, because if you're switching to an older game, you just want to switch to the controllers and whatnot. The new controllers don't have the little rings on the outside, so you won't punch as many things with them. You'll hit your hand on it instead.
Yeah,
so they're better in that respect. Everything about it is better there too in the frame rate. I have the motion sickness thing. I'm one of those people that like can't play, or I have to use a patch thingy to play VR for a while. So it definitely helps a lot with the change in the refresh rates and all that stuff too. Like in that game, it was too. The way the combat worked, there wasn't like quite as much like locomotion. It was just more fast action kind of thing. But it was really cool to see like the heft and the weight of the weapons instead of just when you go like this and it looks like your character's flailing their sword back and forth.
Right.
Even when you do that, it kind of lags behind on purpose, but in a good way to make you feel like you really just hit that guy when you're fighting. What was that first boss you had to fight?
It's a big crazy Phoenix thing. I normally don't get motion sickness. There are settings in the beginning of this game that ask you if you get motion sick easily, and if you do, it'll like turn on like a tunnel vision thing that helps you.
Yeah, that's not new.
It's not new,
and I've tried it, and it doesn't help.
It's not
a whole
new,
lot.
but it's in it. I didn't do that. Like I got a little sick, honestly. It doesn't use the teleporting locomotion if you choose that option. If you choose to not turn on the tunneling, it you just sort of move. And the refresh rate of this system, I mean, this is running just in the Quest. This is not attached to a PC. It runs very smooth and looks very good, and as a result, I got really sick feeling like I was just like, I'm really moving in the world.
That's always the impressive thing about the Quest, though, too, because like I have one for the 2. I have one of those portable capsules you can put it in, like a carrying case for it. And we've taken it with us on vacation because it's like, you got that afternoon that you're not doing anything. You got a 5x8 room that you can work in, and you can just pop it out. It's the best. It's so cool. It's getting closer and closer with every iteration, and this one's so good. To see the augmented reality stuff as well too, like getting better and better, is a big deal to me.
That full color pass through sounds
it's one of the best
cool.
things
like
about
being
it.
able to I could imagine like outside of gaming certain utilities with that, like being able to do work or whatever while I'm watching TV, like just like I don't know, like Minority Report.
Yeah.
Just, like, screens or whatever. Like.
and then they bust through and then they knew you were going to commit a crime and they bust through your door.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, Asgard's Wrath, it feels good. The action felt good. Like Buck say, it's almost like when you put motion blur on a TV and then you go like, oh yeah, I guess it does look better when it's slower. You know what I mean? Like, because when it tracks your hand as fast as you can move it, it does look kind of stupid. And I will say that I had the Quest 1, and that thing was constantly losing my hands all the time. But this bad boy, at one point, I realized that when you're holding your hand out, you can like do this and this and this separately. And I was trying to figure out
on the controller.
My guy in my hand, his hand was, and I was going, "What am I? I'm not pressing what?" And then I realized I'm not. You don't even have to press buttons. The cameras on the Quest will see when your hand is on the joystick. Like you don't even have to touch it barely, and it'll put your it was moving his thumb to close it.
Weird.
It was insane.
Yeah,
I was
it's
just
wild.
like, whoa, it's
so smart.
Camera's absolutely incredible. But and one last thing I wanted to say about the action of the section that I got to play is in the beginning you play as like this sword fighter Kratos type, who complete with axe that you can throw and then pull back. And the throwing of the axe felt very good. You have to use it to sort of solve puzzles every now and again, and then like retract it or whatever. But normally in a VR game, in a VR game, throwing things has always felt bad. There's something about
Vader Immortal. It does not feel good throwing your
the
lightsaber.
apex of the release. There's something about like they didn't have it. Like I don't know. There's something about the throwing. Like when I actually release my hand is never the way it works. Like in a VR game, but in this game, it felt very good to chuck this axe across the level. I don't know how they did it.
I think that's part of why. I think that's part of why it's getting the reviews and the praise that it is, because that's what they're trying to get at. They're just saying, no, it's not just prettier, because prettier doesn't mean 10 out of 10. No, it's not just a full length game. A full length game doesn't make 10 out of 10.
Right.
It has those extra development things in it that make it feel like a really great game. Like what makes Baldur's Gate better than the 8 million other, turn-based RPGs and the Pathfinder and D&D universe before it, because of the attention to detail and the effort that goes into the whole package.
Yeah.
Some indie devs and game devs call out juice. You add the extra juice to the development cycle. You throw in those little things that make it feel really satisfying. You throw in a little camera shake when you attack, a little camera shake when you get hit, or whatever, whatever little thing that just feels really good and satisfying.
Yeah. And then test it afterwards. Don't just throw it in because someone had an idea.
Right.
Yeah. Play testing for sure is a big part of it. It seems like they paid a lot of attention to detail with it.
There's moments where you have to, I include the word platformer because there are moments where you have to run up to a platform and put your hands on the ledge of it and like push yourself up. And that felt really cool. And then there are moments when you have to jump off of like small ledges using the A button. There's a button to hurdle obstacles. So there'd be moments where you'd be running and you have to press A to jump over a thing. And that really just like, man, like I said, that motion sickness. It was like, oh my God, I feel this is, woof. This is a little too real. Yeah. But yeah, Asgard's Wrath 2. Good game. Total game treasure, I'd say. The last 10 out of 10 VR game that happened was Half-Life Alyx, I want to say.
I think so.
Yeah. Like the only other one to get 10 out of 10.
So they are moving up in the world, which sort of brings me to our next segment here, the state of VR. I wanted to talk about hold on. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, he's here. We have a special guest today for the show. Let me go introduce him. I'm going to go unlock the door. I'll go grab him real quick.
Oh, boy. I wonder who it is.
Right this way, my lord. They're waiting for you.
Oh, here he comes.
Yeah, you can use my computer. Yeah, I know you don't have a laptop. Yeah, they don't.
The anticipation is palpable.
Ladies and gentlemen, now introducing the king of video games.
What? Oh my God, he got the fucking king. No fucking way.
Are these the magic devices which I place upon my head? Oh yes, like this.
I've been on a side quest to find this guy for like 29
Hello!
years.
It is I, the king of video games.
Well, hello, king of games. Hello, king of games.
I beseech you, kind adventurers, for my kingdom is broke,
It's a side quest.
and I need gems. Please, I'm so interested in the future, and I need valuable VR gems for my kingdom.
Some valuable VR gems.
Oh,
King.
we
We've
got
'em
VR
for
gems,
you.
King.
Oh, excellent. Enjoy these wonderful video games. I will be on my way. King of video games, away!
Oh, he's not going to stick around. Okay.
Thank you so much, king of video games.
Surprise bits are so much better than planned bits.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Oh
wasn't
my God.
expecting that. And
That was incredible.
man,
Oh my God. I can't believe
Yeah.
I sent him an Evite through Google Docs, and I didn't think he was going to show up.
what's
Because
his
he doesn't.
email?
Yeah, like
King of video games at kingofvideogames.com.
I bet
duh.
you wish you knew the king of video games email address. But you heard what he said, right?
Saw right through
He
my
needs
plan.
VR gems for his kingdom, which is broke now. So I'll go first. If it pleases my liege.
Okay.
The VR game that I am bringing to the table is potentially one of the best VR experiences that I've ever had, which is Super Hot VR. So if you know Super Hot, it was originally a PC game. It's a first-person shooter, and the long and short of it is the game only progresses in time as you move. So normally when it was just a point and click first person shooter on the, on the computer with mouse and keyboard, when you say, swipe left or swipe right to change the way you're looking, time might pass. And if you use WASD to move left or right or crouch or whatever, time will pass. But they made this game for VR, and the same mechanic still applies. So time will only move when you move. And this game was the first VR game that I ever beat in its entirety. Like, I had to come back to this several times to end up beating it. It feels incredible to have this Matrix-like reflexes when bullets come flying at you and you have to physically move your body like this to dodge them, and then you like reach back and you look and find an ashtray sitting on a table and you pick it up and then hurl it across the level and hit someone in the face, and then their gun flies in the air, and then you crouch and reach up and grab their gun and then pull it down and shoot. It's the best thing about VR, and when it feels really immersive, is when you're playing a game, like if you're playing Devil May Cry, for example, like you, are controlling Dante and doing all these things, but you don't feel like Dante per se. You feel like you're playing a video game. In this game, when playing it, you feel like John Wick. Like you feel like Neo. Like you think you are like I'm just like inadvertently doing flourishes just in the room by myself, like just in a room by myself, like doing cool, like
I feel cool. My mom thinks
one of the coolest moments is like grabbing a gun that's behind you without looking at it, because the game acknowledges its spawn. So there'd be like moments when you kill a guy and then his gun like flies in the air after he dies, and then you look at another guy and grab the gun without looking at it and then pull it down and shoot him. Fantastic. So yeah, that
translated
that
well.
game, that version of that game came out quite some time ago. But the look of it also, I should mention, it looks like you're in like a Metal Gear Solid 2 simulator, like whatever, where it's
VR missions.
It's a white background, and all the enemies are just like sort of faceless red guys. And so the Quest and some of the lesser powered VR consoles not having so much power, not such a problem, because like I said, the game is sort of low poly to begin with. And my favorite thing about that game as well is that there is a insane sub B plot that's happening like in the background. So you will be like, you're running these missions when it starts, and you're just sort of like, it just says like play the mission, and then there hits like a level in which it pulls you out of the game, quote unquote, and then you like take your headset off and you're like a guy in like some scary room somewhere, and you're like in front of a computer and whatever, and then you'll play a few more levels, and then you'll come back out, and like you're in that same room, but there's like police outside, like there's like sirens going off and like crazy shit, and then you'll go back and play a few more levels, and then you come out and you're like somewhere else, and it's got like this crazy like I said, this esoteric, strange B plot that's going on that's just like kind of meta and very, very interesting. So yeah, Super Hot VR is my
super hot
is my game
super
gem
hot.
of this week for the King of Video Games. Buck, what have you got for the King of Video Games today?
VR game gems for the King of Video Games. Back when VR was just starting to get really popular, and I had whatever the Valve one was.
The Index,
I don't
right?
remember the name of One of the ones that had the light boxes and all the other crap that made VR really cumbersome and not as much fun as it is now with these standalone ones. And it makes you go like how far VR's come with like Asgard's Wrath 2 is when I played the original Arizona Sunshine, which is a zombie game for the meta. They just announced, it made me think of it because they just announced the second one is going into early access. And it's still the same thing. It wasn't a super long game. It was like 4 or 5 hours. But back then, a VR game that was 4 or 5 hours, that was a full VR game.
Right. Yeah.
But it had some of that early, really great stuff of like grabbing, you looting cars, and you didn't just click on the car door. You had to open the car door and look in the seat and look in the glove box and grab the items out of it. And then you saw a zombie coming down the highway, so you had to either decide: are you going to go around him? You're going to try and shoot him, whatever else. But there was a part where you ended up in like a mine, like it's in Arizona, so you're inside the mountains somewhere and in like this abandoned mine, and you basically get tricked by, I don't know, you probably didn't get tricked by the zombies, whatever. It was a good excuse for them to say you had to get to here to get this item, but now you're at like the end of a dead end and you have to go back, and the zombies just start coming at you from the corridors that you came out of. So you're trapped and you have to fight your way through. And here I am. This is one of those games where like when you run out of ammo, you have to grab a clip and you have to reload the gun. Right. So I'm reload, reload. And my wife must have just come into the room and been like, "Oh man, what an asshole."
Yeah.
And I'm And I'm in the middle of those, hiding from the zombies, shooting the zombies, and I got the VR headset on, and she just smacks me.
Classic.
Bam, 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 bam. No.
That's why they had to make the color pass through, so you can always be watchful of your notes.
Something fun like that. But I tell you what, as a side note to the gems, and I have not played this yet, but I'll just tell you now that I'm so freaking stoked for it. You might have heard of this, but they made Seventh Guest in VR.
Whoa.
The original Seventh Guest, but they didn't cheap. If you guys have never played, Seventh Guest was an old PC game, Trilobite from the mid late 90s. It's been ported to everything now. You can probably get it on your iPhone for like 99 cents now. But here's the thing.
Equal to 13th Hour, right?
11th Hour. They did not. 13th Doll was the fan-made Kickstarter third one, but I played that too. It's great. But here's the kicker, right? They didn't just cheap out and make the original Seventh Guest in VR. They refilmed all the ghost scenes.
Whoa.
They redid all the environments in 3D. Like it's a remaster. It's a remaster or revamp of the original,
really cool.
but in VR.
Dude, that kicks ass.
Dude.
Hell yeah.
I mean, one of my favorite puzzle games, because for me, puzzle game 101, give me the puzzle. Don't tell me what to do.
Thank you.
You can give me clues. You can do whatever else. You can give me context clues and environment clues. Fine, but make me have to figure out the mechanics of the puzzle to make the puzzle more enjoyable. Not just I have to get your guy from here to here. Like the old one had a spider web puzzle, and there was like a limerick to go along with it to let you know that you had to move in 3s and 5s, and you had to go back, forth, and this way, and web out, and end up at the last spot in the right amount of moves.
It's the Resident Evil approach to puzzles.
Well, before there was Resident Evil.
Right, right. Wild.
But yes, that was one of the reasons why I liked Resident Evil. So Resident Evil's puzzles weren't quite as involved as, these, because Resident Evil is just, find the right keys and the right colors and swap them in and out. Yeah. This one will do everything from like, here's a section of a chessboard, get this. The same thing. They give you a section of a chessboard and there's like 5 chess pieces on it. And you're like, what the hell do I do with this? Mm-hmm. And you have to figure out through elimination there, like, oh, I'm supposed to get this knight within X amount of movements or whatever else. Or there's one with a microscope, and it's like, what do I do with this? And you find out that there's these little different microbes. There's blue ones and green ones, and the green ones eat the blue ones, blah, blah, blah. There's rules to it, right? And each one's a little microcosm of rules to the puzzle, and they don't repeat anything.
Producer,
and that's what adds to the fun of it.
Eric has pulled up some footage.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to play that now. There's a MetaQuest 3 update for it, and it's a standalone. It's also on Steam as well too. No matter which headset you have.
Damn, this looks really
awesome.
Cool.
When I first saw it, I thought they were just going to cheap out and be like, "Yeah, you're going to play Seventh Guest in 3D," and I was like, "Oh, I guess I'll play Seventh Guest for the 9th time."
It's got full motion video. That he was talking about with the ghosts. Yeah, there's full, like, you'll walk down a hallway and then, oh God, I remember being so scared of it when I was a kid, and then you watch it now,
when
it's so
when the
bad.
bride like
It's so shitty.
down the hallway
Yeah.
at you. But like it had great ambiance to it that made you scared. Like, oh, I got to go down to that basement to do the what? I'm not going to the basement. No, it's fine. It's just a giant maze, and there was a carpet. Turns out there's a carpet in one of the rooms, and the carpet's pattern is the solution to the maze.
There you go.
Before you had a cell phone,
yeah.
so you couldn't take a picture of it. I remember me and my buddy Ben playing it, and there was a piano puzzle where you had to play one of the theme songs. We had a piano in our computer room when we were kids. So here he is figuring it out there, and we're on an old Mac. So when you click the key, you know, it's like a 20-second delay to see the animation and hear the music. Yeah. So to circumvent that, I just actually went over to the real piano and played the keys and figured it out on the real piano, and then played. Oh, look at the foyer.
Holy shit.
Look at the foyer.
Flashlight.
This looks so
damn.
And you turn around and there's the glass puzzle with the
that's gonna look nice.
Yeah.
Ooh,
so I'm super excited for that. Oh, they did the little Mansion of Hidden Souls. Oh, I'm a soul.
Hell
super
yeah.
pumped
Excellent,
about that.
Buck. Excellent, excellent. All right, Raph, what have you brought for the king of video games today?
So my experience with VR is very limited. The only games that I've really played in VR was the demo for Resident Evil 7, which was absolutely horrifying. And a little bit of Skyrim in VR, which was okay. But I will say that the bow slinging mechanics are really fun with the VR, being able to draw a bow back and then fire it. But actually, the game that I'm going to go with is one that I've played not in a VR mode, but is available in the VR mode, and that's a game called Devour. Devour is a sort of like co-op horror game in the same vein as Phasmophobia or Lethal Company, where you are running around a map trying to perform a ritual to banish a demon that's possessed one of your fellow cult members. But if you look up some of the VR footage of this game, it looks absolutely horrifying. Like, I could just imagine being chased by a Devour. The developer is Straight Back Games. It's a pretty cheap game, actually. It's about $5, I want to say.
Wow.
Yeah, $5. And I think you can pay more to get like a special supporter pack to help support the dev or whatever. But yeah, it's one of the scariest co-op games that I've ever played in terms of like frantic action. And I can only imagine that this would be 10 times more scary in VR, you know, being stalked by a demon while your friends are all screaming around you and trying to run around, trying to find stuff to sacrifice to try to banish it. But
it looks horrifying.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah, no, it's very scary.
Nothing's
but
worse
it's fun.
than VR horror. It's terrifying. Phasmophobia in VR is a whole other level of terrifying.
That's. I was gonna go with that too, just because I really, really want to play that. But it's
so much fun.
One that I haven't gotten to play, but I really want to play just because I love the base game, and the VR seems like it would add such an extra little chef's kiss to that fear.
Nice.
I like horror games, man. I don't know.
Can't wait for
I really
that
like
Lethal Company
things.
VR. Let's fucking go.
Oh yeah. No, there's already a mod out. I'm pretty sure you can already mod it in VR.
Yeah. All right. So that is going to be it for our game gems. I hope the king of video games is pleased. Unfortunately, Venny is not here, but I got good news because he sent us a little something. We're going to move on to our next segment. It's Venny's bonus round.
What's going on, fellas? This is Vinny coming at you with the bonus round. This week, what is your most memorable arcade achievement? Achievements are a big deal in games these days. They weren't tracked back then. So tell us, what is your most memorable achievement back at the arcade? I will go ahead and start. Back in the Mortal Kombat 2 days, I once put up a 16-match win streak at my local video store using nothing but Sub-Zero and the quarter I had in my pocket. Good God, that machine was eating quarters like Thanksgiving. So boys, what is your most memorable arcade achievement? Let's hear it. Back to you, Mac.
Wow, arcade win streak at Mortal Kombat. That is excellent. He's got an excellent point. Back then, achievements weren't tracked, and so you kind of had to just remember that time you kicked 16 guys' asses in a row at Mortal Kombat.
Well, if it was any of those Mortal Kombats, it was tracking it on screen for everybody else that was watching over your shoulder and going, ooh.
I'd like to go first because I have a kick-ass video game arcade achievement.
Nice.
and I'll preface this by saying this is sort of arcade adjacent, but I feel like it is the spirit of arcade. So, I don't remember what year this is. I was probably in middle school, so this is probably like 2002 or something like this. My brother, the Megabuck, used to host video game tournaments in our little neck of the woods here in Orlando through a little organization called the Orlando Video Gamers Association. And he would host these day-long tournaments where they'd everything from Halo to Smash Brothers to GoldenEye. He would LAN up a bunch of TV screens and like 100 Xboxes and 100 PlayStations, and he would host these game tournaments long before.
Okay, maybe not that many.
Well, throughout the day, it was several dozen different games, and then he would have free play things. But this was before really anybody was doing this sort of situation.
This is like 2001, 2002.
And
way back when.
my memory, my arcade memory, was I entered one of our tournaments, which was a puzzle fighter tournament.
Nice.
And I got all the way to the last round of puzzle fighter tournament, in which I went against Alex Jabali.
Of course you
Founder of CEO. If you know anything about the competitive fighting game scene, you'll know about this massive host of everything from Smash to Tekken to whatever. This guy was
hilarious.
going to.
I didn't know you
was
fought
going
him
to
in
the
that.
Mega.
We went to college
He
together.
was going to the
We
Mega
went to college
Bucks
together.
game
That's why.
tournaments
Wow.
years
At UCF.
before he started CEO, and he was my opponent for the final round of combat for Puzzle Fighter.
And you were a child, which means he beat the ever living shit out of
Precisely.
you.
I was a child, and he is an asshole, famously. And he did not hold back, and he absolutely demolished me.
We went to college together. We used to hang out in the arcade a lot. I give him so much shit because I love him, but I hate him, but I love him. My wife and him could just tear each other's throats out. I won't dox him, but he's in my phone.
There you go.
But I have known the man for 21 years. And we still live in the same town. He lives in Orlando, or he lives the next town over. And still to this day, he won so many of those events when I was just a little business trying to make a little extra money on the side. That back in the internet forum days, we had a thing called the Jabali ban, which meant you could only win one event per weekend event that we had. 21 years later, almost every time we see each other or hang out, he reminds me of that.
An incredible memory. I had people behind me cheering me on. I'm trying to, and it was my palms were sweating. My heart's racing. It had all the thrill of the arcade. You know what I mean? Everyone's watching. And like I said, I fucking played a now pretty famous guy.
Infamous. Yeah. If you guys are on Twitch, he's the Jabated emote.
If you ever played Dive Kick, the Steam fighting game, he's a playable character in Dive Kick.
And his mechanic is the mechanic of his character is the more that he wins, the bigger his character's head gets.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Wow!
So there you go. That
video game's calling it out.
I'll send this to you, Alex. I'll pop up a picture right now of him with me. I gave him a power glove one time for a promo he shot for CEO. He came over here a couple
That's
times.
my arcade story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's
Buck,
hilarious.
What have you got for your best arcade achievement?
Man, when I was a kid, I grew up in the arcades. I mean, I was people that knew me as a kid, they knew to just give me quarters as a kid. I still remember Casey Daigle and her mom Lori giving me $50 in quarters for my birthday one year, and I'm like, this might as well have been a treasure chest full of gold because I love this. But I was also the kid that would go to the arcade and just do figure eights around the arcade because I just enjoyed being around it. I didn't even have to be playing the games to really enjoy it a lot, right?
Wow.
And I remember when the first Killer Instinct came out, we were really big on Mortal Kombat and all those. And I remember when we first saw the Mortal Kombat 2 for the first time after playing 1 for the past year or so. It was at a county fair or something. I saw Baraka for the first time and I almost crapped my 9-year-old pants. The guy, he's got swords that come out of his hands. Holy crap.
It's the most 90s thing ever.
but probably one of my best. But pumping out quarters to try and beat those games. You know, the first time you like beat Ninja Turtles in the arcade as a kid was like a huge achievement. I remember before internet and before guides on how to beat these and before unlimited credits on a home version and everything else, I had played the first Ninja Turtles arcade game just enough that I'd figured out this strategy to fight Krang in his robot suit, and he couldn't hit me a single time.
Is it?
So there's this strategy, and you go on YouTube and stuff and find out, and I'm not the only person.
Jumping dive. Yep.
No, it's not the dive kick. It's when you change directions midair in the original Ninja Turtles. If you wait till just after the apex instead of dive kicking, you like float and you do like this midair swing with pretty much all the turtles. And if you do that at this perfect back and forth angle against Krang and that body, he can't kick you and he can't hit you. The only thing he can do sometimes is when he spams that laser attack over and over again. And if you don't get the arc just right overhead, people have figured that out now. And obviously there's videos all over the place on YouTube, but this was like, 1996 or something that I figured this out. And it was like, we get to Krang, everybody just go in the corner. I'll solo him. What? Solo Krang?
Let me
put in an extra quarter just in case.
What the hell is this guy talking about?
And now it's always a joke whenever we play, because it might be one of the arcade machines in my collection back there. My Ninja Turtles arcade machine. I have owned that arcade machine for over 20 years.
Wow.
But just to be able to do that, be like, I got Krang. I'll save you guys all your lives. We got this.
All right, Raph, what about your arcade achievements?
Man, all right. So I actually didn't go to a lot of arcades growing up. In Miami, there was really just one really big one, and it closed when I want to say like in middle school or so. And I did spend some time at that. But this actually comes from like one of my first times going to Dave & Buster's. I had never been to a Dave & Buster's before, and my parents took me for something. I don't know if it was another kid's birthday party or what, but they had that whole section that's kind of cordoned off, and they have those pods that you can go in and play like this almost VR mech game where you're inside
Point Orlando had those.
Other people. Yeah, right. So I
vaguely remember that.
Oh yeah. No, it's funny that we talked about VR, because this is like my child brain exploded when I was like, I could be in a Gundam.
Janky Disney Quest VR.
Yeah, like I could be in a Gundam right now. What?
Nice.
So yeah, no, I got to play that, and my achievement was not coming in last, honestly. It's just I don't know, achievement in mediocrity, but I was super stoked to get to play it, and I guess that was a cool feeling in and of itself. But that was my first experience with any kind of like virtual anything.
Hell yeah.
It's very cool.
And since I'm the host and Venny's not here, I'm gonna throw one extra one in, which is
nice. Arcade stories are always fun.
Which is I'll call it an achievement of getting in a U-Haul with the Megabuck and driving like an hour and a half to like Clewiston, Florida, or something like this, which is like the most trashy.
Arcadia, ironically, Arcadia,
Florida, which is the most trashiest hillbilly section of Florida. I swear to God, to retrieve a Virtual On. So if you don't know what Virtual On is a 2-player arcade cabinet that features 2 Gundam-style cockpits that rest right next to each other. And this game is a third-person robot fighting game that takes place in an arena,
1v1.
Almost like Power Stone or something. And going to pick up this game and then being able to practice it, because at the Ripley's, believe it or not, in Orlando, they had one.
Really?
They did, and nobody knew how to play it except this guy. There you go. That game, all the mechs have super special secret moves as well.
Yes.
Which,
especially the main guy, Temujin, has that like dash.
The input of the game is 2 fucking Gundam Wing style handles, Twin 2 sticks, vertical joysticks with buttons on top for secondary weapons, buttons like as triggers for your primary weapon. The way you would jump is you would press out, you would put point the joysticks in opposite directions. And then while you were in the air, you could also press the joysticks together and force your character to land faster than normal.
Like a jump cancel.
Like a jump cancel. And so it was such a fantastic arena fighter. Buck still has this machine, if I'm not mistaken.
I do.
And it is one of the best video game arcade experiences that anyone, in my opinion, can play. It has pretty janky graphics. It looks like what was that?
It was a Saturn game. It was a Saturn.
So
lots of polygons.
Yes, lots of polygons, lots of bright colors. But I like it. I think it looks fantastic.
That's cool.
And it's one of the best mech fighting games to this date. And it's so kick-ass that Buck has one. It's really one of the best things.
Yeah.
Gnarly.
Picking up virtual.
I did that for a while.
Was awesome.
That's part of the fun. Same thing. UCF Wackadoos. That we had one there. That's where I played it.
At Wackadoos?
No.
Yeah.
The one at UCF?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they had that there. They had Puzzle Fighter there. All that stuff all stemmed from all that. It's all just one giant ball of nostalgia.
They had Street Fighter Alpha 3, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah. And there was a code in the arcade to hold both kick buttons, and you could do a co-op mode, which was in the PS1 version.
So that both of you
the
could fight
mode
Akuma and lose.
But one of the kick buttons was broken half the time in the arcade there, so you'd try to do that mode, but you couldn't always
do the
get
Raging Demon because your light kick doesn't work. All right, let's move on. We're gonna go to our final segment here, which is, of course, the What Else You Got. All right, it's time to wrap up with What Else You Got, and this week I wanted to bring 1.5 things. I'm sorry for the extended time, but I just got this, and I have to share this. This is the Razer Kishi V2. So I had the
controller thingy,
V1.
right?
Yes, that the V1 featured this really interesting collapsible design, but the V2 is designed much more like the Backbone, if anybody knows what that is. But this little bad boy takes your phone, inserts your phone, and is a built-in Xbox formatted controller. I believe it's even licensed by Xbox. This thing kicks ass. So Steam and the Xbox both have the ability to stream play games. So obviously with Steam, if you have your PC nearby, you can just mirror that. And then for Xbox, as long as you have a Wi-Fi, you can connect to the internet, and then the internet connects to your Xbox as long as you have a certain setting on, and you can play your Game Pass games on your Xbox from wherever the fuck you want. So this thing is fantastic because there are moments where we're watching something on TV, like how most people watch stuff on TV now, and really I just want to play Slay the Spire because I always want to play Slay the Spire, and I can just sort of silently play this Slay the Spire on my phone, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm watching TV. Wow.
But yeah, it was like $70 on Amazon for the refurbished model, and I have the iPhone 15 Pro, so the screen is big, nice. You know what I mean? So it's fantastic as far as like if you don't want to shell out $500 or whatever it is for the worst version of the Steam Deck, you can spend $60 or $70 on this thing, and if your phone is halfway decent, you can play Baldur's Gate on your phone. You can play. It doesn't make the fumes. You can't huff the fumes, but
then what's even the point?
It is a fantastic little device that I love, and you can take it pretty much anywhere. The other thing is that you can pass through charge your phone with a little port on it while you're playing, and it itself does not take batteries. It does not require power. It just uses power from your phone. So I love it. I love not having to carry the extra batteries around, and I love just the quick inserting of the phone, and then boom, you're playing. And the other kind of half thing I wanted to mention is that Dan Mullins, who is like one of my favorite game makers of all time, is the guy that made Inscription and Pony Island. Recently on Steam, he announced he's making a sequel to Pony Island. So I want to direct everybody to dmullinsgames.itch.io, which is where Dan Mullins posts all of his games. Pony Island, for those of you who haven't played it, which you probably haven't because it's very strange. If you played Inscription, it has that same sort of scary vibe to it while being guised as like something sort of innocent. In it, you're playing a game called Pony Island, but really you're not. There's a demon inside of a computer, and it reads your files like all of Dan Mullen's games and scares
Also
you,
Inscription.
by thinking that it's intrusive on your life. But yeah, the Pony Island 2. Pony Island is a
Panda Circus.
Panda Circus.
Pony Island 2,
Thank
Panda
you.
Circus.
You stole the words right out of my mouth. The subtitle of the game is Panda Circus, which
What?
and if you watch the trailer, Pony Island is like a side-scrolling game that almost looks like a Flash game, but Pony Island 2 is like a full
Looks like
it's
Myst.
like a 3D fucking horrifying
what?
looking like
Oh
it
my
looks so
God,
strange.
what is
This guy, I love this guy.
That's probably right up your alley,
makes-
Raph. It's
This
creepy in the
looks-
weirdest
He makes
ways.
the best
Rad
video
as
games
hell.
ever. So yeah, go to D Mullen's games.
More like this World of Horror.
Yeah.
That's a
He's
good one.
absolutely fantastic. So Pony Island 2,
Oh, that's
I'm
put it
wishlist
on your
this
wish
now.
list. I'm sure that helps him a lot on Steam. I put it on my wish list, and because his games are fantastic. Buck, what else you got?
I'm laughing too hard about Pony Island 2, Panda Circus.
So good at everything.
So I blame Mac for this because we reminisced about the links a couple episodes back, right?
Oh yeah.
I may or may not have gotten a big old collection of sealed in the box links games.
Wow.
Oh.
To add to my personal collection. Now they only made like 70 something games for the links. So I'm pretty sure I have like a third of the entire links collection here in the box.
That's the Atari Lynx.
Plus-
In case anybody didn't watch that episode, it's
Yeah,
Atari's
the-
handheld
yeah.
from the 90s.
Yeah, the competitor to the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color
Game
and the
Gear.
Game Gear and stuff. It was far superior. It just took like 8 million AA
Literally.
batteries and it was weird. But the so a bunch of these are sealed. A bunch of them are just in the box.
Rattle off the
like,
titles.
Look at
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Like, oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
let me see. We got Malibu
Curious.
Bikini Volleyball,
Okay.
Clax,
Whatever that is.
Hydra. Oh, that was a puzzle game. It was really popular in the arcades.
Okay.
Hydra, whatever the hell this
That's the
is. It
boat
looks
racing
cool as hell.
game,
It's like a
right?
boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a boat racing thing. Crystal Mines 2, Electric
Oh.
Boogaloo, Zybots, Super Squeak,
Fuck yeah.
Squeaky, Super Squeaky. This blew my mind. 1 or 2 players. I forgot the links had like a cable like the others.
A Lynx cable.
Shanghai. Yeah, this one, which is pretty famous, I think, for coming in this clamshell thing. Kung Food.
Oh, it's like a toy,
Here.
like an action figure.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I've got some others here that are just still in the box but not sealed. Stun Runner, which was a blast. I have that one already. But Chips Challenge, which is a fun.
Where
fun
you
one.
just eat a bunch of chips as an overweight guy.
No, I think it's no. It actually just looks like a Minesweeper ripoff at the end of the day. But
Oh wow.
Dirty
Man.
Larry, Renegade Cop,
Hell yeah.
Dirty Larry.
Rampart. Yeah, I don't
Dirty
know, Dirty
Harry.
Larry. This is cool. Pinball Jam, which has
Ooh.
one of the Elvira pinball games, and Elvira and the Party Monsters, and Police Force, which is a terrible pinball machine, but still fun. Road
Wow.
Blasters, which was a
Ass
blast.
blasters.
And then this one here, I'll show you the back first because you can see like the little sprites and you kind of go, okay, that looks kind of fun. But check out the cover art on this bad boy.
Whoa, what the fuck is
Oh,
that?
Man, that is gnarly.
It's the most 80s, 90s.
It looks like that
animu.
fucking Spriggan anime or whatever. Like, yeah,
Right.
that looks awesome.
Everybody I've shown this to, you now included, has said like some like random 80s
I
or
love how
90s
it's just like
anime that
firing
they've.
indiscriminately into
Yeah.
the air. Like, just-
I know,
It's-
yeah.
It looks like a Mega Man
Right.
ripoff, and they just said, Mega
yeah.
Man, look at this
Yeah.
guy. He's a badass.
Mega Man, more
So-
like Mega Boy.
But yeah.
All
So
right.
so most of my Lynx games were all loose. Like you said, I carried them in that case. And
Yeah.
so now it's like, hey, I got a bunch of boxed Lynx games that I'm super
Only-
excited
only-
about now. But I blame you. It's
Only
your
the
fault.
Megabuck would get
Damn,
super
that's pretty
excited
cool.
about sealed Lynx games. All right, Raph.
No, that's pretty rad.
What else you got, sir?
Well, I mean,
Don't say
I
Baldur's
don't
Gate
want to
3
bring up
again.
Baldur's. I was about to say Baldur's Gate
can't be
again,
Baldur's
but
Gate.
no. In truth, the thing that happened to me this
That's
week
funny.
was that I decided to give away some more of my time, and I ended up getting Vampire
Fuck
Survivors.
yeah!
man, I can't believe that I have slept on this game this long. I didn't think I was gonna like a game where you're just auto battling and just walking around, but it is incredibly addictive. Like, man, I can't stop playing it. Honestly,
So
I still
funny.
have it. I have it set up right over there. So as soon as we're done here, I'm gonna play a little bit more, and then probably hop into Baldur's Gate later.
It's just one of the best. Vampire Survivors is so fucking good.
What they call it, auto battle or auto shooter.
It started
auto
a
battler.
whole new genre, basically. Like people are calling
Right,
them
Survivor
garlic
likes,
likes.
I guess you call them. Yeah,
It's a
Garlic
genre that
likes, I like
existed, but it wasn't very
Good.
before
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, I guess twin stick shooters are like the obvious, progenitor.
Right,
of it.
obviously.
Right. What if there's only one
Right.
stick because you don't do the shooting?
Yes.
All right, yeah, exactly. You just collect the power ups. I really like
Yes.
that though. The whole, collect the power ups,
Yeah.
level up your certain power ups, and then
Yeah.
I got to a point where I was like, man, I'm just wrecking house here, and then it just wasn't enough, and got
Yeah.
taken down by like 1,000
Yeah.
bats and zombies and vampires.
But then you learn to
and
like
stuff.
you combo this blade with the rainbow, this or that, or
Right,
blah blah,
yeah.
and you combo. Next thing you know, you can murder anything, and you
Right.
don't even
Right.
Next
move.
thing you know, death is literally coming for you, and then there's ways to
Yeah.
get so strong you can beat him.
Yeah.
And then there's
Yes.
other
Oh,
deaths
that's
that
awesome.
come for
Yeah,
you.
you're like, oh, death is unbeatable. I
Right.
can't beat him, and
No,
then you learn
yeah.
about the other colors
Right.
of
There's
death.
other people on the internet that are like way
Oh.
past that. Yeah, that game is absolutely fantastic. And
Wow.
I'll never stop comparing it to. It has the satisfying. If anyone's ever played Tecmo Bowl, if you've ever used the Oakland Raiders to just absolutely juke.
Oh, Bo
If you ever
Jackson
used
just
Bo Jackson, just absolutely juke all 12 or all whatever 11 players on
Yeah.
the defense, like that feeling of satisfaction when you narrowly escape someone from hitting you in Tecmo Bowl is just in Vampire Survivors over and over and over and over again. You're constantly just barely like wiggling through these
Yeah,
crowds of
squeaking
people. It
by.
feels so good.
Very, very
Fucking-
fun. I look forward to putting a bunch of time into this. Also, I just love the music. Honestly, like the music is really
Yes.
cool.
Oh my god, I
It
always
gets me
forget
kinda,
how
like,
good the music is until I play it
pumped up,
again.
I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah.
yeah, very Castlevania-y, and then there's that
Yeah.
slot
Yeah.
machine aesthetic.
Oh yeah.
Ugh, I could talk about it forever.
One
Yeah,
more
I'm
spin.
excited.
All right.
Excited to keep playing
But
it.
that is our show. Guys, we did another one. Make sure to like and subscribe to the Game Treasure podcast if you haven't already. Join us next week when we will be wrapping up January and the living in the future by doing an excellent game pairing. We're going to be comparing and contrasting Chrono Trigger with Sea of Stars. We want to thank Crunkwitch for the use of our theme song, Clash of the Droids. We love Crunkwitch. Please go look them up on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, anything you can. They're an excellent little indie band here. And I personally would like to direct you to RetroGameTreasure.com. Owned and operated by Buck, aka the Mega Buck himself. It is a subscription service that sends you bespoke boxes of video games every month. Every major console from Atari to the PS4 generation, tailored to your collection. Don't bother with those crappy emulators like the Atari 500. Retro Game Treasure has been obsessed with video games since 1985. My name is Max Stein, and I love the Game Treasure podcast. It's so bad.
It's so bad.